Welcome to our deep dive into the hidden costs of Christmas. We actually got sent this article, How Christmas Wrecks the Planet and Your Body, the Cost of Overconsumption. I have to say, it's really made me look at all those twinkling lights and piles of presents a little differently.
Yeah, it does kind of challenge that cheery holiday image, doesn't it? But, rather than bah humbugging the whole thing, maybe we can sort of unpack some of what the article highlights and what it can mean for you this year.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So let's start with something that I think we all see, that mountain of trash after Christmas morning.
Oh, yeah.
The article says Americans throw away 2.3 million pounds of wrapping paper alone.
Wow.
Add in all the ribbons, bows, and those impossible to recycle bits of plastic packaging, and it's no wonder landfills are overflowing.
Yeah, and the impact starts long before something hits the trash.
Yeah.
Right? Every single bit of that holiday cheer has a carbon footprint.
That's true.
Think about it, that teddy bear under the tree. That probably traveled thousands of miles by ship, by truck, maybe even plane to get there.
Yeah.
And then there's the energy used to keep all those stores lit up and heated throughout the whole shopping season.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about the stores themselves.
Yeah.
And speaking of things I hadn't considered, the article brought up Christmas trees.
Oh, yeah.
I always thought a real tree was the eco-friendly option,
Right.
but apparently they're often shipped long distances and sprayed with pesticides.
Yeah.
And artificial trees. Forget about it. They can take 500 years to decompose.
It's really amazing how even just small choices have those ripple effects, isn't it? We're talking about the energy to produce the items, the energy to transport them, and then even the energy to dispose of them.
Right.
And speaking of energy, those twinkling lights we all love, they use a crazy amount.
I bet.
6.6 billion kilowatt hours of electricity in the U.S. alone.
Oh, wow.
You want to put that in perspective? Yeah. That's enough to power over 14 million refrigerators for a whole year.
See, that's what I mean. I knew about the wrapping paper and the travel, but the energy use is really eye-opening.
It is.
And speaking of energy this time, the kind we eat.
Whoa.
The article talks about how the average person consumes a whopping 6,000 calories on Christmas Day.
Oh, my goodness.
That is 3 times the recommended amount.
And it's not just the impact on our waistlines we have to think about.
Right.
All of that food, where does it come from? Meat production, especially beef, is a major contributor to greenhouse gases.
Yeah.
And then there's the food waste. Something like 30 to 40% of holiday meals get thrown away.
That's awful.
It is. And that rotting food releases methane, which is a greenhouse gas that's even worse than carbon dioxide.
Oh, wow. So much waste. It's really a shame to think about all those resources going to waste.
Yeah.
And speaking of things going to waste, the article called out our gift-giving habits.
Well, yeah.
So many of those cheap plastic gifts break quickly and end up in landfills, and then there are all those electronics getting tossed out. 50 million tons globally every year, the article said.
And what's really interesting is the article said 60% of people receive at least one unwanted gift every year.
Oh, yeah, I can believe that.
So it's not just the environmental impact, it's this reflection of how we view consumerism and how we're trying to express love. We often feel obligated to give gifts, even when they're not desired.
That's so true. I know I've definitely been guilty of buying gifts just for the sake of giving something.
Right, which makes you wonder why.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah. I mean, why do we feel this pressure? Is it tradition? Is it just clever marketing? Or is it just social pressure?
The article kind of points to all three. We're bombarded with messages saying love equals gifts, that a proper Christmas needs to be extravagant, lots of decorations, tons of food, and of course, piles and piles of presents.
Yeah.
It creates a powerful cycle that's really hard to break.
So we're kind of trapped in this system where we feel obligated to buy more and more stuff, even though deep down we know it's not sustainable.
That's one way to put it.
For the planet and for our own well-being.
Yeah. But don't worry, the article offers some hope.
Okay, good, because that's what I need to hear.
It's not about canceling Christmas, but it's about finding ways to celebrate in a more mindful and sustainable way.
So it is possible to have a joyful Christmas without all the excess and the waste. Tell me more.
Well, the key is to think about the entire life cycle of the things we buy, use, and ultimately discard. So let's start with Christmas trees.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Okay.
What's the best approach for Christmas trees if we want to be eco-conscious?
Well, if you already have an artificial tree, the most sustainable option is to keep using it as long as you can
Okay.
to offset its initial carbon footprint.
Right.
But if you're buying a new tree, they recommend going for a real one, but ideally one that's locally grown and pesticide-free.
Local seems to be a key theme here, reducing those transportation miles.
Exactly.
But aren't there concerns about deforestation with real trees?
You're right to bring that up. But you can look for farms that practice sustainable forestry.
Okay.
Some even offer tree rental programs where you can return the tree to be replanted after the holidays.
Now that is a cool idea, rent a Christmas tree. Okay, so we got trees covered. What about gifts? That seems like a tough one to change, especially with kids who have these long wish lists.
It can be tricky. Instead of buying a bunch of cheap plastic toys that break quickly, what about giving experiences instead?
Okay.
Like concert tickets or museum memberships or cooking classes, things that create memories and don't end up in a landfill a week later.
I love that. Experiences over stuff. And that's probably a good reminder for us grown-ups, too.
Right.
What about those people who are really hard to buy for? Any suggestions for them?
Handmade gifts are a great option.
Oh, yeah.
They show real thoughtfulness and are often way more unique and meaningful than something you just buy in a store.
Yeah.
Or how about a donation to their favorite charity in their name? It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Ooh, I like that.
It makes a real difference in the world.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we've got trees, we've got gifts covered. What about the Christmas feast? Any tips for making that more sustainable and healthier? Because let's be honest, that 6,000 calorie average is a bit scary.
Yeah. Well, one simple change is to just downsize those portions.
Yeah.
Only cook what you'll actually eat.
Yeah.
Not only does this reduce waste, it helps prevent overeating.
Portion control, good advice any time of year. But what about all the traditional dishes? Do we have to give up our favorites to be eco-friendly?
Well, you don't have to give up everything, but think about swapping out some of those really meat-heavy dishes for plant-based alternatives.
Okay.
A delicious lentil roast, a hearty mushroom Wellington can be just as satisfying and have a much smaller environmental impact.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I love trying new recipes, so maybe this is the year I branch out from the traditional turkey or ham.
There you go.
What about if we do decide to have meat? Is there a way to do that more sustainably?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Choose sustainably sourced options. Look for meat that's free-range, local, and organic whenever possible.
Okay.
And don't forget, proper storage of leftovers can go a long way in reducing waste. We even consider donating any surplus food to local shelters or food banks.
Okay, so we're making smarter choices about the food we buy, cook, and eat.
Right.
What about decorations? Any eco-friendly tips for those?
Definitely. The article really emphasized LED holiday lights.
Okay.
They use up to 90% less energy than traditional bulbs and last way longer.
Wow.
You can even find solar-powered options for outdoor decorations, which are even better for the environment.
That's a great tip. I'm definitely switching to LEDs this year. What about other ways to save energy on decorations? Because let's face it, those lights can stay on for hours.
You can put your decorations on timers,
Oh, yeah.
so they're not running all night long.
Yeah.
You can set them to turn off automatically at a certain time,
No.
or even use a smart plug to control them remotely.
That's brilliant. I'm always forgetting to turn off the lights before bed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered a lot about the environmental impact of Christmas. But the article also touched on the impact on our personal health. Remember that statistic about the average person consuming 6,000 calories on Christmas Day? That kind of excess can really take a toll on our bodies.
No, it's true. We associate the holidays with indulgence,
Yeah.
but that can lead to overeating, weight gain, even feelings of sluggishness and guilt.
So how do we find that balance? How can we have a healthier holiday without feeling deprived?
Moderation is key.
Yeah.
Enjoy those special treats and indulgences, but try to balance them out with healthier options.
Yeah.
Instead of reaching for another slice of pie, maybe opt for some dark chocolate or a fruit-based dessert.
Yeah.
And remember to stay hydrated. Drink plenty of water between those holiday cocktails.
Hydration, another good reminder, especially when we're so busy and caught up in the festivities.
It is.
You know, even with all this talk about the downsides of Christmas, I still feel that magic of the season.
I agree.
It's about more than just stuff and food, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The article also highlighted the importance of focusing on the true spirit of Christmas. Connection, generosity, and compassion.
Yeah.
It's about spending quality time with loved ones, creating meaningful traditions, and giving back to our communities.
I love that. So it's not about canceling Christmas. It's about evolving it,
I like it.
making it more mindful, more meaningful, and ultimately more joyful.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between tradition and sustainability, indulgence and well-being.
Yeah.
And the great thing is when we make these changes, we're not just benefiting ourselves, we're contributing to a larger movement towards a more sustainable and compassionate world.
That's incredibly inspiring. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from trash mountains and energy consumption to healthier eating and stress management. We've really explored the hidden costs of Christmas.
We have.
But I think the biggest takeaway for me is that we have the power to change things. We don't have to be passive consumers swept up in the holiday frenzy. We
No.
can make conscious choices that align with our values and create a Christmas that's both joyful and sustainable.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that we're all part of a larger system and that our individual choices can make a difference. So as we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, what stands out to you so far? What will you do differently this year?
That's a great question. I'm definitely going to be rethinking my gift-giving strategy.
Yeah,
Maybe focusing more on experiences and handmade gifts.
I like
And I'm definitely switching to LED lights. But what I'm really excited about is exploring some of those plant-based recipes for the Christmas feast. Who knows, maybe a lentil roast will become our new family tradition.
Ooh, I like that idea. A lentil roast, that's a great idea. It's amazing how even just talking about these things sparks some creativity.
Yeah.
You start thinking beyond the same old, same old.
It really does. I'm feeling inspired to make some changes this year. But it also makes me wonder, if all these more sustainable and mindful options exist, why aren't more people doing them already? What are some of the biggest obstacles to having a more eco-friendly and healthy Christmas?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is just the sheer volume of marketing we're exposed to during the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
Advertisers spend billions of dollars trying to convince us that we need to buy more and spend more and consume more to have a perfect Christmas.
It's true.
Those messages are everywhere on TV, online, magazines, even on our phones.
Yeah.
It's hard to escape.
It's true. And those ads really play into our insecurities,
Yeah.
making us feel like we're not doing enough if we don't have the latest gadgets or the fanciest decorations or the biggest feast. It's like this pressure to keep up with the Joneses.
Exactly. And that pressure can make it really hard to resist those impulse purchases, even when we know deep down that they're not going to bring us lasting happiness.
Right.
The article called it the hedonic treadmill. We just keep chasing after that next purchase, thinking it'll finally make us happy. But the satisfaction is always fleeting.
So how do we break free from that cycle? How do we resist those tempting messages and stay true to our values, especially during a season that's so heavily commercialized?
Well, one strategy is to just be more mindful of the media we consume.
Okay.
Limit your exposure to advertising by being selective about what you watch, what you read, what you listen to.
Yeah.
Maybe even take a break from social media, where those targeted ads can be especially persuasive.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And when you do encounter ads, just try to view them with a critical eye. Ask yourself, do I really need this? Will this actually bring me joy? Or is there a more sustainable alternative out there?
Those are great questions to ask. It's about becoming a conscious consumer, not just a mindless shopper.
Exactly.
But what about the social pressure? Sometimes it feels like everyone around you is buying tons of gifts, and you don't want to be the Scrooge who shows up empty-handed.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. But remember, you can always have an honest conversation with your friends and family
Yeah,
about your values and your desire to have a more sustainable Christmas.
that's true.
You might be surprised to find that others share your concerns and are open to trying something different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe this year I'll suggest a Secret Santa gift exchange with a price limit,
Oh, yeah.
or even propose doing a group activity instead of exchanging gifts.
I love that.
Yeah.
Those are great ideas. And if someone does offer you a gift that you don't want or need, don't be afraid to politely decline it.
Ah, interesting.
You can express your gratitude for their thoughtfulness and just explain that you're trying to minimize your impact on the environment.
I've never thought about refusing a gift before.
Yeah.
But it makes sense. It's about setting boundaries and being true to our values.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're being mindful of the media we consume, having open conversations with our loved ones, setting boundaries. Any other strategies for resisting those consumerist pressures?
One practical tip is to set a budget
Okay.
and stick to it. Decide in advance how much you're willing to spend on gifts, decorations, and food, and then track your spending carefully.
Yeah.
This will help you avoid overspending and impulse purchases.
A budget is a great idea. Keeps you focused and organized.
Yeah. And it can also prevent those post-holiday credit card bills from becoming a major source of stress.
Exactly.
But even with a budget, those temptations can be strong.
Well, they are.
Any tips for staying strong when you're feeling that urge to splurge?
Well, instead of focusing on what you're giving up, try to shift your focus to what you're gaining.
Okay.
Remind yourself of the reasons why you're choosing to have a more sustainable Christmas. Maybe you're motivated by protecting the environment for future generations,
Mhm.
reducing your impact on climate change,
Yeah,
or simply creating a more meaningful and fulfilling holiday experience.
that's a great reminder. It's about remembering our why. And speaking of gaining things, I'm curious about the rewards of having a more sustainable Christmas. What are some of the benefits beyond the obvious environmental ones?
Well, one of the biggest benefits is that it can just reduce stress
Okay.
and create a more peaceful and joyful holiday experience
Hmm.
when we simplify our celebrations and focus on what truly matters. We free up time and energy for things like spending quality time with loved ones, enjoying those festive traditions,
Yeah.
giving back to our communities.
So it's about creating a more authentic Christmas experience, one that's centered around connection and meaning, not just stuff and consumption.
Exactly. And when we make these changes, it can have a ripple effect on those around us. We can inspire our friends and family to rethink their own holiday habits and to join us in creating a more sustainable and compassionate world. It's like we're planting seeds of change that can grow and blossom over time.
That's a beautiful image. So we're not just benefiting ourselves and the planet, we're also setting a positive example for others and potentially inspiring them to make changes in their own lives. But let's be honest, sometimes it can feel overwhelming to think about all the things we could be doing.
It's true.
Where do we even start?
It can feel daunting at first, but the key is to start small and to focus on one or two changes that feel manageable for you. Maybe this year you commit to buying a locally grown Christmas tree. Or perhaps you decide to make a few handmade gifts instead of buying everything.
Right.
Every little bit counts.
That's reassuring to hear. It's not about being perfect, it's about making progress.
Exactly.
And as we make these changes, we start to see the positive impact they have on our own well-being, on our relationships, and on the planet.
Exactly. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be times when we fall back into old habits or make choices that aren't perfectly aligned with our values. But the important thing is to keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to create a more sustainable and joyful Christmas.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway you hope our listener is thinking about? What's the one thing you'd like them to remember?
I want them to think about the power of conscious choice.
Yeah.
Even in a season that's so heavily commercialized, we still have the power to decide how we celebrate, what we buy, and how we spend our time and energy.
It's not about deprivation or guilt. It's about finding ways to celebrate Christmas in a way that aligns with our values and brings us genuine joy.
I agree.
It's about creating a holiday that's both merry and bright for ourselves and for the planet. What stands out to you from this part of our conversation? What's resonating with you the most? It really makes you think about, what it means to give at Christmas.
Yeah,
It's not just about the physical gifts under the tree, right?
right.
It's about giving back to the planet, giving our time and attention to loved ones,
Yeah.
even giving ourselves permission to kind of slow down and enjoy the simple things.
It's interesting. That connects to this broader cultural shift we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a growing awareness of our consumption habits and how they impact the world around us.
Yeah,
People are questioning that more is better mentality,
right.
and they're looking for ways to live more simply and sustainably.
It's like we're realizing that true happiness doesn't come from just accumulating more stuff.
I think so.
It comes from experiences, relationships, a sense of purpose.
Exactly. And you see that shift reflected in things like minimalism,
Oh, yeah.
the sharing economy,
Yeah.
conscious consumerism.
Right.
People are decluttering their homes, they're buying less, they're choosing products that are ethically and sustainably made.
It's almost like we're rediscovering those traditional values of community, connection, resourcefulness,
Yeah.
but with a modern twist.
I agree. And the holidays offer a perfect opportunity to put those values into practice.
Yeah.
Christmas is already a time when we're so focused on generosity and giving.
Yeah.
So it's a very natural extension to include the planet in that circle of giving.
I love that. Expanding our definition of giving to encompass the well-being of our planet.
Exactly.
But, let's be honest, even with the best of intentions, those old habits can be hard to break,
Well, they are.
especially when you're surrounded by all those tempting holiday displays and all those marketing messages.
It's true, those external pressures are strong. But you know what I find really interesting? A lot of the solutions for a more sustainable Christmas actually lead to a more enjoyable and fulfilling holiday experience.
Really? How so?
Well, think about it. When we declutter our homes
Mm-hmm.
and simplify our decorations,
Yeah.
it creates a more peaceful and relaxing atmosphere, right?
Right.
When we focus on experiences and meaningful traditions, rather than just a mountain of gifts, we create lasting memories.
Yeah.
We strengthen those bonds with loved ones. And when we choose to support local businesses and ethical brands, we're investing in our communities. We're voting for a better world with our dollars.
Those are all great points. It's almost counterintuitive.
It is.
The less we focus on material things, the more joy and meaning we find.
It really is. It's about shifting our priorities from acquiring to appreciating, from consuming to connecting.
Yeah.
And when we make those shifts, it not really benefits us personally,
Right.
but it ripples out into the world around us.
So it's about recognizing that our individual choices, even small ones, can contribute to a larger movement towards sustainability and social justice.
Exactly. It's about using our consumer power to vote for the kind of world that we want to live in.
Right.
Every time we choose a locally grown tree, a handmade gift, or a plant-based meal, we're sending a message.
Right.
We're saying that we value sustainability, ethical production, community well-being.
That's empowering. It makes me realize that we're not powerless in the face of these big global challenges.
No, we're not.
We can each make a difference with our everyday choices, especially during the holidays when our spending power is amplified.
I agree.
And it's not just about what we do during the holidays, right?
Right.
These habits and values can carry over into the rest of our lives.
Absolutely, they can.
So Christmas becomes a catalyst for positive change, both personally and globally.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about using the spirit of Christmas to inspire us to live more consciously and compassionately all year round.
Well said. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into the hidden costs of Christmas, what's the final thought you want to leave with our listeners?
I want them to remember that a more sustainable and joyful Christmas is possible.
Yeah.
It starts with awareness,
Right.
with questioning those deeply ingrained habits
Mm.
and being open to new ways of celebrating.
And it's not about being perfect or depriving ourselves.
No, it's not.
It's about finding those small but meaningful shifts
Yeah.
that bring us closer to our values and create a holiday season that truly nourishes our hearts and our planet.
Exactly. So happy holidays, everyone. May your celebrations be filled with joy, connection, and a deep appreciation for all that we have.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought as you plan your own festivities. Remember, even small changes can make a big difference. What will you do differently this year?